Picked up this thing last week. This is an Loprinzi LM15, has a Sitka spruce top, mahogany back and sides, Brazilian bridge, and probably Brazilian fingerboard. It looks pretty Brazilian, definitely on the bridge. This guitar I found last week for $600, and I bought it immediately. Now, this guitar's been on my bucket list, and I'm not going to keep it. Prepare your hearts and minds. I told my patrons, I told my live show. Okay, here's why I don't keep more guitars than I do. I feel like if I keep guitars, I have nothing else to show on YouTube, and I'd rather keep doing YouTube. I really like doing YouTube, and I like the videos and the community that's built up around Guitar Hunter. So to me, it seems pretty boring if I all of a sudden just keep everything that I get. So anyway, with all that said, this is not a Larrivee. This is an Loprinzi LM15. Now this thing, I want to tell you in this video, I want to tell you everything that's right about this thing, which is a whole lot, and everything that's wrong with this, and then what comes next. So first, what is everything that is right about this guitar? Now, since you've seen this last, I've restrung it, I cleaned it up, I put some oil on the bridge. The bridge was so dry, but I put some oil on it. It looks excellent. I restrung it with Stringjoy Foxwoods, and they're kind of my favorite of the last couple years. For a coated acoustic string, they're phosphor bronze, they sound great. Anyway, I restrung it, I set it up, I did a minor truss rod adjustment. Truss rod's kind of wild in this one. It's like up inside, and it's a nut. It's like a Gibson, but the other way around. It's like a nut on the end of the truss rod that you tight, but it's down inside here underneath the fingerboard and on the neck block. It is way cleaner than I first thought it was. I looked at it, I dug into it, and it is just, I mean, there's no play wear. I don't think anyone ever actually played this guitar. There's almost no, I mean, hang on, there's no discernible scratches on the pick guard. There's nothing up here. There's no buckle rash on the back. I mean, this thing, you can see it. It is just minty clean. There's no fret wear. There's no capo marks on the back of the neck. In the 70s, there were certain capos that had felt, and they would wear out, and they would make these little bumps. So normally on the back of these guitars from the 70s, 60s, 70s, you would find these kind of mars in the finish. None of that is here. So this thing is remarkably clean. The tuners are great. They work perfectly. They're kind of old. They're not patent number Grovers, but they're very like mid-70s Grovers. I prefer these. I think they're awesome. I love the way they look. I love the way they work. And I only wish that they were nickel. They're chrome, and they still look as fresh and tidy and new as they did the day that they came out of the factory or they were put on this guitar. But man, this guitar, everything good about this thing, everything right. I mean, it is a very straight, very clean American vintage guitar. What is the story with Loprinzi Guitars? Now, I do not know the full story. I am not an expert on this. Here's what I know, and I'll share what I know and then what my experience with Loprinzi Guitars has been. Loprinzi Guitars were two brothers. My understanding is that their parents were immigrants from Italy. Now, please hold all the facts and details of this loosely. I have not even researched to make this video. This is just me, you, and I hanging out. And I'm just going to tell you what I know. What I know. Two brothers making guitars. Two brothers had two fires. Two different times they were building guitars and lost everything to fires. Then there was some kind of legal trouble. Brothers fell out. There's two different phases. Apparently in the early phase of Loprinzi's, they would do green binding, and they also would do a lot of Brazilian rosewood. And one of the things you regularly find when you look for them is that there are a considerable amount of Loprinzi's out there that have Brazilian rosewood back and sides. The early phase, before the first fire, my understanding is that there was a green line in the binding, and so that's what you usually look for. And then with that, they would be Brazilian, and so even with this one, Brazilian fingerboard and bridge on a mahogany back and sides guitar. After the second fire, it sounds like they really kind of lost their steam, and by 1980, my understanding is that Agostino Loprinzi, who made this one, had moved to Florida, and he was making mostly classicals and ukuleles, occasionally making steel strings. They're not they're not super rare, but they're also very much not common. It's not a kind of guitar that most people know about. My history with them is that I worked in a vintage guitar shop for 7 years right out of high school. That's how I paid for college. I'm incredibly thankful for my time at the Guitar and Amp Center. Boss Warren and his friend Victor would always run around to these old guitar shops, and one of kind of the secret gems that they were always looking for and they would buy for so cheap were Loprinzis. And so I just kind of caught on that they were ones that, I mean, old Martins, old Gibsons, old Fenders, old Gretsch, all of these things, but there was this kind of special magic that came to their eyes and this kind of light that came to their eyes when they talked about Loprinzis. I'd only played a couple. I don't remember any, but I've always wanted, and I've always kind of known, hey, the guys that I love, the guys that I trust, and the heroes that taught me so much about guitars, they like those. I want to be like them, so I'll like the things that they like. And so this one's really worked out. I've only been able to buy one of them in my life, and this is it. And so, man, now with all that said, I understand what is now going to come. No, I'll save this for the end. Okay, now let's talk about all of the things that are wrong about this guitar. There's really only one thing. There is literally one thing that needs to be fixed on this, and it's going to be fixed pretty quickly. And that is the very high action here. It is very, very, very high. And when I say very high, I should measure these things. Caliper, 0. So the action is 5.7 millimeters, but it's 0.22 inches, or 5.7 millimeters. So it's pretty high. I mean, it's by the time you get to an octave. Now here's the 12th fret. Ooh, the G is bad. B's pretty close. This guitar needs a reset. I talked to Nathan Wright. He's an amazing guitar builder, and he's become a good friend. He's done a lot of work for me. He's working on my Gibson Country Western right now. But this guitar is going to go to him. It's going to get a neck reset, and that's the only thing that it really needs. I mean, we're going to do a new saddle, obviously, and I'll have him do kind of his compensated saddle to give us the best intonation possible. But this thing is pretty much sorted. Now, that is not a cheap endeavor. That's going to be about $650. So I paid $600. I am putting another $650 into it, and I'm shipping it back and forth. So all of that to say, what's happening with this guitar? This guitar is already sold because I've built out a network of people that also care about the things that I care about. And when I find these cool things, that is everything good and bad about my Loprinzi and what's happening with it next, and a bit of just kind of a layman's explanation of the story. So thanks for watching. I'm Jeremy, and man, this is, I just want to make this kind of video the rest of my life. I want to find cool guitars, and I want to get them into the hands of people that love them and want them. And yeah, thanks for watching. Make sure you're subscribed and buy some merch. Check out stuff in the links and all the links in the... Go down there, do stuff, and have fun. See ya.